And we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome. And I'm welcoming back a familiar face to the channel, one of my greatest friends in this community, Sabrina. Sabrina,
Hey,
how are you doing tonight?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be doing this again.
Me too. I literally cannot tell you how glad I am that we both are in East Coast time, because it just makes this so much easier.
Yes,
You
because
know,
I would not be doing this at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
Nope.
My dear friend Jack, like good friend of me in the channel, he lives in Texas, and so when we were doing like Loki streams last summer, there were times when like for him it was like pre-midnight. And I was like, it's 1 a.m., man. Like, I gotta go. He was so nice about it. And I was always the one that was like, no, like, let's keep going. But sometimes I'd
Yes.
be like, why didn't I not just be like, go to bed?
No, I would just like be like, okay, good night. Gotta go to bed, like in the middle of
Bye,
the night.
bye. Early bedtime for me
Yeah.
is the way to go. But how have you been? How's your new year been? I can't
It's
believe
been
we're like
so good so
nearly 2
far.
weeks into it.
I know. And it feels like forever still, even though it's been like 2 weeks. But
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, I've been working and kind of stressing, but kind of trying to take care of myself as well. But yeah, it's good so far. How about you?
No, literally same. Like I have been on this exact same, like I'll stress out about something and then I'll be like, nope, we're not having this year. Like
Nope.
we're just not doing that. We've done that for the last 2 years. It's not cute
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like over
I
it.
feel
Over
that.
it. It's just, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
okay, let's see who is in the chat. So Michaela was here earlier. I did see this earlier. Michaela, I hope you have a great time at work. Thank you so much for stopping by before the stream. Cassidy
Yeah.
is here. Alex, Jason, welcome guys. Welcome, welcome. So, as you probably saw from the title and or thumbnail of this video, Sabrina and I have both loved screenwriting, like dearly, dearly in our hearts. We love scripts. We love a good screenplay. And we were like, how can we incorporate this into a live stream? And so Sabrina came up with the amazing idea to do a favorites and least favorite scripts list, which definitely to me, and I don't know about you, Sabrina, when I was making my list, I had to really think through just like, no, it's not just the movie that I dislike, but like the script specifically.
Yeah, it was the same for me, for sure.
It's definitely like difficult because I think there's movies like I'll enjoy, but I'm like, I think about that. I know you quoted it from someone else, but I remember you like saying it on your channel of like, you cannot make a good movie out of bad script. Like you can make a bad movie out of a good script, but not the vice versa.
Right.
And that is
Yeah.
just so true for some of the ones on my list.
Yeah, I had to think about that too going through. I'm like, okay, well, I can't, I'm biased, but like I have to really think about, did I like the script or was it just like, I didn't really like the movie that much. So I get that.
No. Exactly. Okay, well, do you want to how do you want to approach this? Do you want to do favorites first? Do you want to do
Yeah.
least favorites? And guys, feel free to leave your favorites and or least favorites in the chat
Please do.
because we're interested to know.
Yeah, let's do the favorites first, I guess.
Okay.
And then go on to the least favorites.
Okay, sounds great. Sabrina, take the lead. What is one of your, mine are not ranked. I don't know if yours are ranked.
Mine aren't either. Yeah,
Okay.
I could choose.
Too many.
One of my favorite scripts is it sounds kind of like weird, but it's Legally Blonde, starring Reese Witherspoon. A lot of people think this is like just like a regular chick flick or whatever, but it's literally the best movie of our time. The script is so amazing, and I feel like the blueprint of it is just like they should teach it in college. Like this is how you're supposed to write scripts because it just has everything in it, and it's absolutely hilarious, and I just love it so much.
No, you're so right. I can't believe I didn't even think about that because I watched that movie like this time last year. And I remember being like, there is so much subtext to this movie that is just, it's there in the script, but like it's not said out loud by any of the characters. And it's so good.
It's so amazing. Like, I love it. I'll watch it like 50 times and I won't get bored of it.
It's just, I also feel like the writing of characters that feel not like completely over the top. Like you could imagine someone like Elle Woods in the real world, but like also like her boyfriend when he has the line about like, I can't be dating Marilyn Monroe's or something like that. I have to be dating a Jackie if I'm going to be a senator. And like the way that those lines are written to be like, they're good, snappy one-liners from a movie, but it's also like, I could hear somebody saying that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I kind of want to be best friends with Elle Woods, honestly.
I know.
She's just so quirky and fun.
I adore her.
It's amazing. I love it, and I love her.
It's so good. I haven't seen. Have you seen any of the sequels? I feel like they can't be as good as the original, but I don't know.
I saw the second one, but I really don't remember it all because I saw it so long ago. But I feel like when I remember, I did enjoy it. It just wasn't as good as the first one. So
I gotcha. I
yeah.
gotcha. I feel like that is the difference when it comes to like a really good standalone movie to then one
Hmm.
that's like more of a like some of that subtext is lost, I feel like in the first Legally Blonde, when I watched it and there was sort of the like sexual harassment element within the law firm she's interning,
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I did not expect this.
Like it's like actually deep for a
I
chick flick or whatever you
know
want to call it.
it is, and like
Yeah.
I feel like it's so, I don't know, like there's just so much, and I feel like a good script too like can just be emphasized by really good casting. Like there's a line at the beginning of that movie where she's at the store and there's the girl is trying to sell her a dress that's like an older line, but she's selling it for
Hmm.
like current price, and she
Hmm.
catches it right away, and I'm like, that is just such a good way to write a woman, because a woman who
Yes.
knows fashion would know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think this movie was, yeah, it was written by two women. So obviously
Then
they
that
know what's up.
explains it all.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
just I love that movie and how it's able to get across so much about the characters in little scenes like that. It's
Hmm.
just it's so well written, and Cassidy
So,
agrees. One of her favorites ever. Same. Like
yeah.
I don't know. It was one of those, I feel like I felt similarly about Dirty Dancing, which is not on any of my like honorable mentions or anything,
I forgot
where
about
like
that one.
there's a storyline in there that's
Yeah.
like, this is so deep, especially when you're considering the time that it was made and you're sort of like, did not expect all of these themes to
Yeah.
be in this movie.
Yeah. It's just amazing. I think it's one of the best movies out there. So if you haven't
I
watched it, anyone hasn't watched it, go watch it because you need to.
seriously, and agree. I so like I love what you said about it's like one of the greatest chick flicks ever, to the point where it's like it's almost like when I talk about Crazy Stupid Love, which was one of my honorable mentions. I'll spoil it
Hmm.
now, but like it's one of those where it's like, no, it's just so well written that like it doesn't matter what the genre is, and like
Right.
I
Yeah.
think especially with something with Legally Blonde, when it's so like Elle Woods and she's blonde and she's pink and she's like picture perfect Barbie doll
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah.
people dismiss it, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, you
It's
gotta
for
watch this.
everyone.
It
Like you can
is.
be the most butch man out there. Like you still need to watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I also, totally separate from like the screenplay of it all, but like Luke Wilson, that movie,
Yes. Yeah.
love him in that. He's a
He's like,
great.
chef's kiss.
He's so good. He's so
Yeah.
good. Okay, so the first one on my faves list, and I'm sure you, well, I don't know. Have you, we'll see, have you seen it? The Social Network.
Yes. Oh
Okay.
my god, I love that movie.
Love that movie. And I know that's so like, talk about going from like the one of the best chick flicks ever to like what I think is like the typical dude bro movie of like I just think about that scene with Andrew Garfield coming in being like, I'm sorry, I left my product at the cleaners, and like just slamming the laptop. I'm like, guys love to quote that movie. Like I think they think it's very sophisticated, but it is, and I think one of the best. I mean, I'm a sucker for Aaron Sorkin, and like when I texted you
Oh.
earlier, the whole reason I created my honorable mentions was because I was like, these all can't be Aaron Sorkin movies. They
I
just
know.
cannot be. It's just
It was the same for me. I was like, okay, Greta Gerwig, Aaron Sorkin. I have too many.
yeah. It's like you like your favorites, and so you're like,
Yeah.
like it's just I feel like his I love his ability to write so quickly and have characters that speak so quickly, even if
Hmm.
it's not the most realistic thing in the world. And what I love about The Social Network specifically is I think there's a couple of Aaron Sorkin's works, whether it be like The West Wing or even like to some degree, Being the Ricardos has this, where like characters will use terms that are not like familiar to the normal public. Like they're very
Hmm.
specific to that field that the character is a part of. And then they'll repeat it and they'll talk really fast.
Yes.
And so it feels like they're super smart. But I feel like in The Social Network, everything is just it's more the like battle of wits between characters that comes
Hmm.
across in the dialogue. And then I just think the movie itself is so well paced, and like for being a true story and the way it jumps between courtroom scenes and like what was actually happening and all that kind of stuff, I just think it's
Yeah.
so well written from start to finish, and like I just adore it.
Yeah, and I think Aaron Sorkin's really good about like getting into the character's head and being able to like change that and turn that into dialogue, and he did that really well in this movie. So I love the fast talking as well. Like that's my thing, like rhythmic dialogue.
Oh
like, I
yeah,
love all of that. So yeah, that's an awesome movie. I love it so much.
I love it. And like speaking of like well, I won't spoil one of my other ones, but like I feel like the
Tell them
people
all
that
now.
just all of a sudden just like bam, 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 bam. Okay, there, we're done. I said it all. But like I feel like it is the people that are able to write characters that have that rhythmic dialogue that keeps you engaged and like interested in the story, because I feel like there's, especially when like dialogue is taught in screenwriting classes, it's so like, well, just don't make it be big chunks of dialogue and don't have it overlap necessarily, but it's like that's how people talk, and that comes across so much more authentically. And I feel like Aaron Sorkin and other writers that I'm sure we'll discuss later are able to do in such a good way.
Yes, for sure. I love it so much.
Oh, okay.
Okay, should
Tell
I say
me your,
yeah.
so you're sorry.
Okay,
I was trying to transition that. I'm just not good with transition.
I don't mean either. I feel like I just like wrote down a bunch of chick flicks, honestly. But
there's nothing wrong with that. Chick flicks are so well written, and that's what irks me, that they get such a bad rap. Like,
yeah, I know. I take it back. I'm not sorry. But Bridesmaids is my next one.
yes.
I don't even know what to say about this movie except that it's like also just one of the best movies out there and absolutely hysterical. And like Melissa McCarthy has me peeing my pants the whole entire movie. Like I love her so much. But I just think this movie is really like just well written, obviously. And I feel like everything was just written so purposefully. Like even in the drama like scenes and everything, I'm still laughing and I'm still like interested in the movie, and I love it so much. It's like up there with Legally Blonde, one of my favorites.
It's so, you're so right. It's so well written. It's comedy, and like I have a full new appreciation for it after I heard that it's like Beanie Feldstein's like favorite movie in the whole
Is it
world.
really?
And yes, I was listening to this podcast where people are talking about like their comfort movie. It's called Happy Sad Confused, and
Yes.
the podcast, and she was on it and discussing American Crime Story, but then like this was her comfort movie, and just explaining like why it was so funny to her and all of these different things. And like I don't know, I think Kristen Wiig is a genius, and I love her and Maya Rudolph together in that movie.
Yes.
Like again, see, now I'm talking about stuff that's not the script, but you're so right. It is funny, and those like the dramatic scenes, or the scenes that are like the lowest in the movie, are still really supported by comedy, which is a sign of like great writing.
Yeah. No, I love that one scene where she like finally lets it all out in front of all of them, and she's like punching the big cookie and like yelling at everyone. And like it's so dramatic because you're like, oh well, their friendship is breaking up, but I'm also like laughing hysterically.
Yes.
And I think that's so like purposeful, like obviously.
Oh,
So,
definitely. And I feel like too in that movie, like the way that they were able to make, obviously in comedy people become more caricaturized, if that's English. Yes, exactly. They become more extreme, is maybe a better word, cartoonish, when you're like dealing with a movie like this in a comedy. But I feel like there's enough truth to like who each of the women is. Like they're well written women.
Yes.
Like we love to see that in movies.
Yes, for sure. And that's the other thing too, is like, because sometimes we talked about this like with Eternals, how there was like so many characters and like it was hard to really get into each of those characters' lives and like figure out who they were. But Bridesmaids does it so well. Like I know individually each character, what their weakness is, what their strength is, what they like, what they dislike, who they are. So I love it.
I know. It really is like it's so well done. And again, like the casting, to know how to cast these characters. I mean, and potentially they're written for them, those women to play. Like I think about one of the like the totally underrated performances in that movie is Rose Byrne. Like she's just so good as that sort of menacing, but also like you sort of feel for her in a way. And like I just feel like that so much of that is rooted in like the script. And
because that's the other thing too, is like I felt myself rooting for all of the characters by the end, like even Rose Byrne in it, even though she was supposed to be like the antagonist or whatever. But like I think that's just great writing in general, is when you get to really love every single character.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Let me catch up on some of these comments. Let's see. Cassidy has seen the Legally Blonde musical. Have you seen this?
I haven't. I
have not either. I have not either. I feel like
I'm kind of iffy, honestly, because like I love musicals. Like, don't get me wrong, but sometimes when you turn a feature film into a musical, it's just kind of weird. But
yeah.
I don't know, because they did that with Mean Girls too, and I was like,
I was just gonna mention that. I was gonna say I heard great things about it, but I was also like, I mean, Mean Girls is Mean Girls, and I feel like the interesting thing, which Cassidy, this is totally not ripping on you. This is more so just like discussing the concept of the musical. But like, I feel like there's certain movies like Legally Blonde and Mean Girls that like they've held up over time. Like they're poignant, they're smart, they're funny, they're good movies. And so then it's like interesting that I'm like, what does the musical element add that the movie doesn't already have?
Right.
But if somebody can do it, then like props to them, and like props to Tina Fey, because Tina really is just, she's made that last so long. Like, not that she's not talented in other ways, but she's really made that work.
Yeah, it's a classic. It will go down for centuries and centuries.
Seriously, I can't wait till like my daughter someday like comes home and is like, hey mom, like me and my besties just watched Mean Girls at a sleepover, and I'll be like, I remember where I was when I saw the movie for the first time. Like, such like a,
as long as you don't turn into Regina George, it's fine.
Yes.
You just watch it.
exactly. And I just hope I'm not like her mom.
Oh my god.
Amy Poehler is crazy in that movie. Oh my gosh.
Be everything the opposite of her mom.
That's the parenting 101. Yes. Like, don't do this.
That's all you have to know. That's why you never have kids. Just don't be Amy Poehler and Mean Girls.
Exactly. Alex, I would be okay. How do you feel about this, Sabrina, when there's like movies that have, maybe they have sequels, but like they've been made a long time ago, and then all of a sudden I feel like the 2020s thus far has been like, let's take everything that was popular in the 90s and either reboot it or make a revival of it or a reunion. Like, and I don't know how I feel about it with certain things.
I think in certain, I don't know, because I feel like a lot of the time it's just like a way to get all of the celebrities and characters back together and like in the same room, and it's really like it brings more money into like the industry, kind of like without having to try that hard, because you know all the fans are going to come and like watch it. I feel like if it's not done well, then it can go very wrong. And like sometimes it's not necessary. I feel like some movies just need to be standalone, and that's it. And that's it, period.
I totally agree. And like with something like Legally Blonde, like if there's a third movie, that's not going to affect how I see the first movie.
Right.
But there's certain things where I'm just like, why do it? And like, I even get more of the reunion of like, it's been such and such years, let's get the cast together. Like the friend, I still haven't watched the Harry Potter one, but the Friends one was so emotional and just sweet to see all of these people who literally were a part of each other's lives for 10 plus years, still are a part of each other's lives, like reunite. So I definitely get that aspect, but I feel like when it comes to, like you said, the narrative side of it, it's like some of these stories should just stand at like, and let new audiences visit them instead of making a version for them.
Yeah, I think if the story had like finished on its own in the first movie, it probably does not need a sequel. Like it's just, that's the story and that's it. I like how in Gilmore Girls it kind of ended kind of like unsatisfactory, like in the original show, but then they came back with the series, like the 4 episodes, and really closed out the show with like a satisfaction, you know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like in that case it's really smart to do it like that. But if the story is like on its own and it already finished, I don't see why you have to make another sequel.
Yeah, that's actually a really good example of one that I that one. And then I watched I don't know if you know who Drew Gooden, he did the Road Work Ahead, I sure hope it does line. That was him. And so he does like YouTube commentary videos now, and he did one about like Arrested Development and Community and how both of them like kind of died prematurely as shows and then like came back in these different formats, and like which one was better. And like I think Community ended with a movie and it was like on Yahoo, which I didn't even know Yahoo had like a stream. Whatever, that's a whole different. I'm rambling. I know, who uses Yahoo? Sorry to anyone who uses Yahoo, but not me. But like it's one of those things where it was like, I get if there's a fan want for something and there is like a lack of satisfaction, like with Gilmore Girls, but I think with some of them it's sort of like, this does feel like a cash grab, like a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I could go on and on about that, but I agree with you. It's a case by case type thing. But okay, let me see. I saw one about David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin need to work again because the film works so well. I totally agree. I think one of the things that I think people have kind of knocked Aaron Sorkin for, which I'm kind of on the fence about because people say he's not the greatest director, which like maybe he's not, but I don't think like Molly's Game and Being the Ricardos, and there's one more that he directed. Oh, Trial of the Chicago 7. Like, I don't think they're that bad, but I definitely think his screenplays can work better when someone else is reeling him in certain areas.
Yeah.
But like,
no, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just no, you're totally fine. I feel like there's certain pairs of screenwriters and directors that go really well together, and then I think there are certain people who are very good being like a dual. Like I think about like Damien Chazelle.
Yeah.
I think like any of his movies are all written and directed by him. Great. But then I feel like some of the Aaron Sorkin ones, he is a director much more like he is a screenwriter. It's a lot more succinct and not as out there as maybe like someone would allow him to be. But
right.
Thoughts, Sabrina?
I've always like wondered too, because like I always, whenever I see his movies, I'm like, oh, who directed this? I hope it's Aaron Sorkin, and it's never him. Like when I watch his movies, did he direct The Social Network or no?
No, that was David Fincher. David Fincher directed it. Yeah. He also directed, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but I think he directed Gone Girl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
yeah, he did. I
think he also directed Fight Club.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Good. Making sure I'm not like missing people.
I know. Thank you, Google, not Yahoo.
Yeah, exactly.
But I always really like movies where the writer is the director, because I feel like the writer has a kind of visualization over the movie that a director who never wrote the script like doesn't have. So that was just always interesting to me, how like Aaron Sorkin, he doesn't really like always direct. I don't know if I've seen one of the movies where he's directed them, but I need to.
You saw Being the Ricardos, right?
Oh yeah, he did.
He directed it, and I think that one was the one that I felt like was his best directed one, because it was like he described, again, in that Happy Sad Confused podcast. I swear, I just get on like binges of certain content, and I'm like just shout it everywhere.
No, I listen to their podcast too. I love that.
It's so good. It's so good. But he was talking about Being the Ricardos and how he was like, how do we establish like Lucy's creative vision for some of these episodes when she's like pitching these ideas that the writers are like, nope, we're not doing that. Yeah. And he came up with like the black and white thing. And I feel like that's something that like when you're writing it, you know exactly how you're going to translate that on screen. And so I totally agree with you. But then I feel like there's certain times when it's like you can get a little bit more artistic if it's a different director. Now I'm trying to think of a good example. But then like Taika Waititi's directorial and screenwriting style would only work for him. Like no one else would be able to do that.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Yeah. Should we go? All right, do we have more?
Let's see. Okay. They're talking about Reagan hasn't seen it yet. Reagan, I don't know which one you're talking about. I think he might have gone. But Harry Potter reunion, I need to watch it. Sabrina, what is your Hogwarts house?
So I'm Gryffindor. When I first originally took it, I was Hufflepuff, and then I took it like as an adult, and now I'm Gryffindor. So I guess I'm Gryffindor. I don't know.
I feel like I definitely like tend to, part of me is because like I read the books and I was like, I'm a Ravenclaw. Like I'm a Ravenclaw. And then when the like Pottermore was like super popular in middle school, I was like, I took it 12 years old when you would go to Hogwarts and get the sorting hat, and I was Ravenclaw. And so like that's very much part of my identity. And then I took one of those like stupid like quizzes like with friends, like haha, like I'm gonna get Ravenclaw, and it was like, you're a Hufflepuff, and I was like, no. And I took like 3 quizzes in a row, and I was like, I'm actually just not a Hufflepuff. I was like, it just doesn't make sense. But then I had a professor explain to us how she sees Harry Potter, which is like, sometimes I'm like, this is my education, like questioning what my
education. I'm just saying.
It is. It's a cool one. I think my parents sometimes are like, but anyways, she was like, she described herself as a Ravenclaw with a Slytherin rising. Almost kind of the way people describe like horoscopes, and I was like, that kind of makes sense.
That's interesting. We should
have maybe like, you're a Gryffindor with a Hufflepuff rising.
That makes more sense.
Or 50-50, you know what I mean?
Do they have that though? Like a what's it called? Hogwarts zodiac sign?
Like, what's your Hogwarts moon?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no, I feel like she just came up with that. And like for me, I feel like it's almost like it could switch on the day, like what your
Yeah.
rising thing is. But hey, I say you're whichever one you want because Harry just says like I want to be in Gryffindor, so you can be in
I'm a
Gryffindor.
little bit of all of them, honestly.
Yeah, I also heard this. She was also the professor that gave us this thing, which again I'm just rambling, so I can shut up. But
It's okay. Go ahead.
it was like if you were walking down a corridor or a hallway and you see a door at the end and it's locked, you have to get in, or like you have nowhere else to go. Like, how do you get in the door? And based on your response to that was like what your house was. So it was like your gut reaction. So like Gryffindor was like break down the door.
Mm-hmm.
Slytherin was like pick the lock. Hufflepuff was knock, which I was like, I would never think to knock if there's a locked door. And then one was like go find the key. And I was like, obviously you'd go get the key. So like that one was the one I was like, phew.
I think I did see that one, and I originally said break down the door.
There you go.
Like that, and it was Gryffindor.
It
so
was
I was like,
instinctual,
no
and you weren't even thinking like.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, I 100%.
So it's Gryffindor.
100% think you're Gryffindor. Okay, cool. Sabrina, what is your next favorite script?
Okay, so my next favorite is directed and written by Noah Baumbach, and it's Marriage Story.
My Marriage Story is on my list. Really? I was screaming.
Okay,
my third one too.
It's fine. We could just talk about it together then. It's fine.
Exactly.
But I love this movie so much, obviously because Adam Driver is in it, and like he's my husband. So
yes, we share him.
And then Scarlett Johansson, obviously, like I love her, and she's like amazing as well. But this is one of the movies that I was talking about where I said that I like when the writer is the director, because I feel like Noah Baumbach, he's done that in like all his movies basically, and you really see like his visualization in the movie. And I don't know, I really love this movie because it's almost like the movie, it takes place, like it centers around divorce, but it's not really the characters against each other. It's like divorce is the antagonist. And so you really get to like empathize with both characters and see both sides of their story, which is like amazing. Obviously the dialogue is amazing and I just love it overall. And he's Greta Gerwig's partner, so I have to like it anyway.
Exactly. Like I feel exactly the same way. I feel like that movie, and that's when I was talking about earlier, like certain writers can like write dialogue. The way he writes dialogue is so good, and I think the fact that for better or for worse, like how popular that fight scene in that movie is when Adam Driver punches the wall, like the words that they're saying to each other are like, I don't know, it resonates so much about the emotion of the moment. And like I totally agree with you, it really is like a love story told through the lens of divorce.
Like, that one fight scene is literally like so emotional. Like I can't not watch it and just be like tear.
It's so, that movie is, that's one that's like, it's definitely not a comfort movie in a way. I guess it's a comfort movie and like how well written it is, but like not a comfort movie, but it's one of those that like I revisit and it just emotionally resonates more and more. And I feel like the way it's, I don't know, I just feel like he is also a writer. And again, like you said, this is something you can really only get when you have a writer and a director in the same person. The way that he approached, like, because I was listening to a bunch of Scarlett Johansson interviews yesterday, and she was talking about how like they'd wanted to do something together before, and like Adam Driver had worked with Noah Baumbach, so like he finds people who are specific for these roles. Yeah. And then like is just so. Is this your mom?
Oh my god, yeah, it is.
It really was. It's done so amazingly. I just feel like all the characters, even like I'm blanking on her name. She won Best Supporting Actress. She's the lawyer.
Oh, Lena Dern.
Yes.
Lena Dern character, yeah.
Yes.
I forget her character's name, but
I forget too, but she's so well written, and that scene is so well written when Scarlett Johansson's like, wow, I don't know, it's just, I'm totally rambling because I love this movie so much, but it's...
Go on, please.
It's like, I just feel like the way it's shot is... I know that he had that in his mind when he wrote it because it's so natural, and I feel like there's so much conveyed. Again, we talked about subtext earlier. Like, this is such a subtextual movie of like... I don't know. Do you have more thoughts? Because I'm like blanking now. I just love it so much.
Fine. Yeah, like even when you're talking about, I know when he wrote this movie, he said that he had like recently gone through the divorce, or like had gone through the divorce, and this was like kind of based on that story. So like obviously, when the reason why it's so emotional is because it's so like emotional to him, and like as a viewer you really feel that. So yeah, I agree with all of that. Like I really really love this movie a lot. So
I feel like there's the perfect element too that like, and I don't know if this was, I don't know like enough about him personally other than the fact that he's partners with Greta Gerwig, but like I feel like the element of having the child there, which I think is a very like realistic thing for people who go through divorce, is having to do, you think you're doing it because you're not happy in a marriage, and like it's partially for yourself, but also you're trying to be amicable about it because of the child. But then like that's such a good tension point in the movie, is like is his name Henry? Henry's like reaction to his parents or what's going on, or like how it affects each of them for him to want to like stay with Scarlett, or like want to dress up as something for Halloween, and like you're trying to prove to yourself and to your child like, no, like I can do this. And it is so personal and so well done.
Yeah, it is so amazing. Like I'm gonna have to rewatch this after.
I know, I'm thinking about that right now.
I'm
I'm like, my DVD's right over on the shelf. I'm like, I'm grabbing that right now and I'm watching it.
I need to watch it now again.
It's amazing. And your mom said, I just love how Adam Driver brings his personality into movies. It's as if he's not acting. I totally agree. And that scene, like when he's like, oh, and you're just like your mother, don't call me my father or whatever. Like it's like an instinctual reaction within them. I think both of them just work so well off of each other in that movie.
Yeah, they do. Their chemistry was amazing too. Like I think their chemistry is one of my favorites out of like all of the movies I've seen. So
yes, no, and it's like it says so much that a movie about divorce is the fact that they have chemistry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's like it doesn't actually exist on screen.
Right.
You just have to. They imply so well like these history parts, and like another one of my favorite scenes, because we're just gushing about this movie now, is like when he's in there and he's talking to like the mom and the sister, and everything seems almost like, you know, they're still gonna get a divorce because she's like about to serve him the papers, but it's sort of like, oh no, like they're friendly, they're good. And like the way he just sort of talks to her in that scene and talks to the other people in the movie, like they feel like real people, and that's so much attributed to the way Noah Baumbach writes.
Or even in like the one fight scene where like they're literally like yelling at each other like dogs, and then he like starts bawling, crying, and he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh my god, like they still love each other even though they're like completely like saying horrible things about each other.
I know, and
it's amazing. I love it.
It is. It's like you just said, it's the conflict, or like the juxtaposition of saying like you literally want this person to die, and then like crushing and like holding them, and just you have to almost say all of those things before you can like learn to love the person in a new way.
Right.
It's just,
and it shows like emotion is so much deeper than just like outward appearance and like what you say. Like I'm like, oh my god, this is just too good. I can't handle it.
It really is. It's just so, I adore his writing, and like he's been one that I am ashamed to say I haven't watched as many of his other movies as I would have liked, but like I want to, because of how well he writes not only just the dialogue, but even like the structure of that movie is like very well done. And I don't know, it's so good.
And I also like, just to say one more thing about it too, Adam Driver, like he's used him in that movie. I think he was in Greta Gerwig's what's it called, Frances Ha, and he's in a new movie that Noah Baumbach is directing and writing. So like he like uses him for like so many movies. I think he was in another one that he did. So
yes, he was in one with I think Ben Stiller.
Yeah,
I think
was that Greenberg, or was that no, that wasn't Greenberg, because I just watched Greenberg and he wasn't in it. I think he was in another one with Ben Stiller though.
I like can see the trailer in my head. I don't know what it's called, but like I think the concept is like Ben Stiller and his wife meet this like younger couple, and the younger couple is always doing stuff. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what's called.
He was in that one too. So he like, if I was a director, I would use him over and over again too.
I feel like that's the thing, is like, again, screenwriter, directors, you learn who works best with your style, and then that allows you again to like fully deliver on your creative vision.
Right.
Because like if he knows that Adam Driver can either improvise well off of that style or stick exactly to the script and just delivers the emotion from the words, like I think that is so, that's the amazing thing about movies. Like we talk about it a lot of how it's like, oh, movies are just so amazing, but like I really do think there's so much craft to it that is just that's almost better when you think about it than the actual final product, even though that's amazing too.
Yeah, like even watching movies after learning about movies so much, it's a different experience now because you know how much goes into making a movie. So it's like watching it, you're like, oh my god, they must have had to use like this lighting and like all this different equipment. So it's like it's a different appreciation for it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And then Alex points out that Noah Baumbach has also written with Wes Anderson. He co-wrote Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I was like, that makes so much sense why I love that movie so much as a kid. It's because now I'm like, I love Noah Baumbach. But then Alex also says, Alex, you're really just like the king of like advice or Google or just not advice. What am I trying to say? Facts tonight. But cannot speak. What is English? White Noise. I did not know that she's gonna star in it.
Oh yeah, she's gonna star in it, which is like awesome because I want to see Greta doing more acting because I love her, like her acting style is so like quirky and I just love it so much. I love her.
I feel like that's so cool too, and like you're able to, I just cannot believe that they, obviously two amazingly creative, talented people like Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach would find each other, but it's like, imagine like if their kid goes into movies. Like all of that talent just in one
like
family.
She's just living the dream life, and I'm kind of jealous, but what are you gonna do?
Truly, they have what we all have. Also, Cassidy, I hope you have a great night. Thanks so much for coming by. Okay, I have one more honorable mention because I'm not gonna go in depth about like Crazy Stupid Love just because I feel like I've gushed about that movie way too many times. Like I love it, but this was one, and maybe it's on your honorable mentions list, but since I know how much of a Greta fan you are, Greta Gerwig, for all of those watching who are not aware, we know her personally. So we call her by her first name.
One name. It's a one name household here.
Exactly. Like, exactly. Exactly. But Little Women is
honorable mention too.
Yes, okay, good. But I was thinking about it, and I literally I cheated this. I put this on here like while we were chit-chatting because I was like, another podcast where I feel like you get to hear what these screenwriters and directors' visions was for the film. But she talked about how, I know it's like very famous that she wrote some of the screenplay in red, or like printed it in red so that they would for the shooting script for like which were the two separate timelines. But I had never been really introduced to Little Women before, like shockingly, before 2019 when I watched her movie for the first time. So like I'd never seen the others, I'd never read it. I knew it was about a bunch of sisters, and I think I can't even remember her name, but I knew the youngest one like passed away in the movie.
Yeah, Beth.
Yes, Beth. I knew what happened to Beth, but that was about my extent of the knowledge of Little Women. And watching this, I feel like the way that she's able to really write, because it's almost sort of like three timelines too, because there's like the adult version, but then it's like, is Jo Louisa May Alcott, like, is she writing this story? Like, it's kind of meta like that, which is so good. But I feel like the way that she was able to write such a story that is so well known, but write it in a way that not only makes it new, not only conveys the same type of message that the book would have to new audiences like myself, but also just really expands upon it. Like, one of the things I had known about Little Women before was that Jo and Laurie were like in love, but then people were like upset that he ended up with Amy. And she gave the advice, which I feel like we talked about last time, but she was talking about, if you want two people to end up together and the audience to root for them, show them together first. And so she shows Jo with the professor before we see her and Laurie together, and we see we see Laurie and Amy together first. Yes. And it's like, or that's the first guy that we see her with, and it's like that is so brilliant. Yeah. Like, I'm still not over it. I think about that anytime I write a script that has a romance in it.
No, and literally, because I'm the opposite. I grew up with Little Women, like, growing up. Like, I read the books. I read, like, I saw all of the movies. And so watching this, like, I had my own idea coming into it, and I was still kind of upset that Jo never got with Laurie. And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh wait, I'm kind of not upset anymore.
Yeah.
Like I kind of agree with Louisa May Alcott now. And then just her, like you said, the way that she turned it into like Joe at the end, actually like asking for publication and like is Joe Louisa May Alcott was just brilliant because I had never seen any other Little Women movie do that. Like she really understood what the movie was about. And then like the script in general, like I've read some of the script and it's like my favorite screenplay. So this is why it's my honorable mention. Cause she like even incorporated the slash, which is supposed to indicate when another character is supposed to talk over another character. And that's just like in real life, like everyone's just talking over each other and it's beautiful. And it's 10 out of 10 amazing.
It really is. And that's what I feel like is so amazing about her and Noah Baumbach's, like, it just makes sense that they would be together and have their creative approach to things like kind of combine with like talking over one another, the fact that that's such a big part of like both of their writing styles. And then I think the biggest thing about this is just how amazed I was that you could approach probably one of the most well-known like pieces of American literature and then make it into something that was new and in a way that had never been done before. And I don't know, I also feel like each of the sisters, which again, I literally still cannot tell you if this is how the book was, which so you as the Little Women as expert will tell us. But like I feel like she gave, even though Joe is inarguably, English is really struggling for me today.
It's okay, I totally understand.
It's like some days are just bad. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's not. I should speak another language because I don't speak English. Like,
exactly. I wish I was fluent in something. Yeah. You know? But the Joe is inarguably the main character, but the way you're able to still invest in Amy's story and Beth's story and what's Emma Watson's sister called?
Meg.
Meg, like you're able to invest in those stories and still get all of that and their mom, which is so her, you get enough of her story too. It's just so again, it's so well done. There's nothing else to say about it.
Or even like I think there's this one line from the mom where she goes, "I'm angry all the time" or something like that. And like that's something I would have never thought of just like reading the book. Like it's apparently from the book that she says that, because I always used to think of the mom as like this calm, like collected, like really superwoman kind of mom. And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh, she's like an actual person and like actually has emotions. So like she just really understood who the characters were, and I love her for that.
She's incredible, and that movie is chef's kiss. So that's how I'll end my thoughts on it. But do you have another honorable mention?
I actually did not write down another honorable mention.
Okay.
You can take this one.
Okay, this was one of the ones where I was like, okay, Sasha, you get 2 Aaron Sorkin movies, and then I'm cutting you off. And so I did The Social Network because I still do think that's like his best written script that feels the most Aaron Sorkin, but it delivers well. But my personal favorite, and this one is like a very, very personal one, is like Steve Jobs, which is he wrote based on a biography, which I've read because I'm a huge Steve Jobs nerd and Apple nerd. But it's based on a biography, but it takes 3 events and rates it very much like a play, which at the time of seeing it, I didn't think about it that way. But then hearing Aaron Sorkin talk about it and like years later, as well as like learning that A Few Good Men was originally a stage play and learning all of these things, I feel like Steve Jobs is able to. Have you seen it?
Okay, so I saw like I think half of it and then I turned it off, which is like shameful.
I was like, no, not about it. You know what? I don't even blame you. I can't even blame you.
I need to watch it again because it was a long time ago, and I probably will have a different outlook on it this time.
I feel like it's definitely dramatized, but I think the thing that I liked about it, especially being like, when I first saw it, I had only read Steve Jobs' biography, but in the years since, his daughter came out with a memoir, the daughter in the movie, who for years he denied that it was his daughter. Like there were many ways that Steve Jobs was a monster. I'm not like totally condoning his behavior. I just think like
Steve Jobs.
I don't condone Steve Jobs denying his daughter at all. Please, no one get that twisted. But I feel like he was so like there were just 2 sides to him and like at different parts of his life, and I think that's what through these three, oh my gosh, my voice just disappeared for a second. Through these three Apple events, Aaron Sorkin is able to like show, sure, each one is like about an exclusive event and things that are happening with the company and like basically just different ways that Steve Jobs is being a jerk that day. But then it all ties together with his relationship with his daughter and at the end of the movie. And then now again, everything has like context in real life. Aaron Sorkin is like, I think he's just a girl dad. So he has all girls.
Yeah.
So in a lot of his movies that has that element of like a father-daughter relationship. And I feel like that is what has made Steve Jobs so good and poignant to me, is like it combines these multiple different views of this man's life where like he was an amazing creative and entrepreneur, but then sometimes he really was just a jerk and horrible to people, but then he was able to like reconnect to the people that mattered later in his life. And it's just, it's so good. And then if you read his daughter's memoir, you kind of get the sense that like for both of them at the end of like Steve's life were like they kind of made peace with certain things. Obviously that pain is always going to be there a little bit, but I feel like the movie with all of those contextual elements, it just is so good. And I remember like fighting with my parents after seeing it for the first time because I was like, no, this movie is going to win Best Picture. Like Michael Fassbender is going to win. And I remember being so, I literally wrote an essay. I was like, everyone's going to be proven wrong. I was like, dang. I don't know when the movie came out. I don't know when it, hold on, let me look at when it came up. But,
I can see why this is your honorable mention.
Yes, I love this movie. And like, I totally understand why other people don't. But it's like, for me, it's one of my faves. And then, of course, learning that it was Aaron Sorkin and stuff. But like, it came out in 2015. So little 15-year-old me was like, oh, I'm going to prove them all wrong. Wrote a little note in my phone about how I was going to win the Oscars. It did not win anything. So I was very wrong about that. But it made a very deep impact on my life. And it was, I don't know, I feel ultimately, if I can succinct my thoughts, summate them, I think it is like so impressive that Aaron Sorkin could make a character sort of like he did with Mark Zuckerberg, who is on the outside a jerk.
Yeah.
And in so many bad ways has done things that are just like a normal person would never think to do that, and make him feel like a character that has growth by the end of a movie, has flaws and things that you can relate to. And like you find yourself relating to two of the biggest men in like the tech world ever. And I don't know. That's why I love it.
I really love movies like that really delve into somebody's life that you would think, oh, that's a horrible person. And then you come out thinking, oh, well, they were just a horrible person who like they weren't a horrible person, but they did something horrible, or they came from something that made them this way. Like, I love movies that do that because it's true. Like, as humans, we're not one thing and we're so many different things, and you can't just judge someone based on one action that they've done. So
exactly.
I love that.
That's such a good point. And like, that makes me think of so many different shows and movies where I just love how there are characters that like, if you really just think about it from their point of view, you're like, oh, they're not the villain. Like in their story, they're the hero.
Right.
And it's like, I think that is, again, a sign of a great screenplay when the villain or the antagonist or a protagonist who is like not very likable can have all of those elements to them.
Right. Yep. I agree.
Yes, so to everyone, that is my pitch to watch Steve Jobs. I know absolutely no one will go watch it, but it is a personal favorite of mine.
I mean, that was a good pitch. Like, I'm going to go watch it now. After this, I'm going to watch Marriage Story and Steve Jobs. I'm just going to stay up all night. It's fine.
Both of them by the end, I feel like will have you crying. But, you know, that's who doesn't love a good catharsis? Yeah.
Me crying walking into my job.
Let's see. Michaela is here. Hey, Michaela. Little Women is on her watch list. Watching her combo has you so excited. I love that movie. And then something we didn't even talk about with the screenplay, like the costume design in that movie.
Oh my gosh. I think the costume designer, she had gotten an Oscar for it.
I think she did. Yeah.
Like, obviously, because the costumes are amazing. I love
them.
They're
so good. And the other part that I love, Michaela, this is not a spoiler, I don't think, but the movie with the different timelines had very different color palettes, with like very warm in their childhood and then much more blue and cooler tones in their adulthood. And I feel like that is a brilliant way to convey, not only in the script, but to the audience, where you are, what point in their life they are, what's the tone of it.
Yeah, that was brilliant of her to do that.
It really was. So Michaela, enjoy whenever you do watch it. And Trevor is here. Trevor, how are you, buddy? Came at the perfect time with Aaron Sorkin. Moneyball is his favorite. Have you seen Moneyball, Sabrina?
I have not.
It's very good. I did not want to watch it for a long time because I was like, baseball and numbers and blah blah blah. I don't want to do that. But it's again, it's one of those that has a little bit of like a father-daughter relationship in it. That's sort of like a background thing, but comes to be important in the story. And it's also just a really good, like, I never have gotten up and like run around after watching a sports movie like I did when I saw that. So a recommendation when you're in the zone, like when you're feeling a man movie or like a sports movie, like that is a good one.
I want to feel masculine.
Yes, exactly. I want to go to war.
I want to go to war.
I want a lightsaber. I love that. And also, I think, have you seen Euphoria, Sabrina?
Okay, no, I haven't, but I want to see it so bad. I don't have HBO Max. I need to get it.
It's, you know what? It's ridiculously expensive.
Is it
like,
really?
They made a cheaper version with ads, but it is easily the most expensive streaming service I pay for. I want to say I pay $16 or $17 a month, which is a lot. But there is a version, I think, with ads that makes it $10 a month.
Okay.
So that's definitely a little bit more reasonable. I don't know what all their tiers are because they just recently added that. But if you ever do watch it, I think it's one of those where I agree with you, Trevor. The way he writes is so irreverent and very like the characters just come across as teenagers, even though sometimes they're doing stuff that I'm like, I don't know that teenagers do this easy, but okay. Okay. Definitely a warning, an adult warning for anyone wanting to watch Euphoria. I talk about it a lot, but yeah.
I've heard so many good things about it. So, and obviously Zendaya, like,
she's incredible. She's the best part of the show. Like, of all of the great elements of the show, she is still the best.
Yeah, she's the best in life too. I love her.
She is. She really is. I mean, she's dating Tom Holland, so like,
well, yeah, I'm kind of
automatic win.
On both sides.
I want to be her and like date her and just all of the above.
Same, and Tom Holland too.
Yeah, exactly. It's really weird. Alex says, "What is y'all's favorite screenwriter?" His is either Tarantino or Linklater. Who would yours be, Sabrina?
Best screenwriter of all time is definitely Greta Gerwig. Like, I think I've made that evident, like, on my channel on here. But she's the one who really like made me want to get into movies. And really, I don't know. I think her storytelling is amazing, and like obviously the whole thing where she has people like talking over each other and like the rhythmic dialogue. I just am in love with her. Like, I literally, that's all I have to say. It's great.
I knew that was going to be the answer, but I was going to let you say it. I think I just love, I don't know that I would say he's like the best of all time because he's really good, but like Aaron Sorkin, I feel like there's people who have more individually better written films than like some of his, but I feel like across the board, I just really like his writing style. And I think that's what I connect to the most. Sort of the same way that you like Greta Gerwig. Aaron Sorkin was definitely not the reason I got into screenwriting, but even when I was 15 and passionate about the Steve Jobs movie that no one else cared about, like it was evident that it was going to be Aaron Sorkin.
He's been with Aaron since the beginning.
I have. I didn't even know it, but I have. I've been a long time supporter. But okay, I feel like it's time to get into our least favorites.
Okay. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. We saved the worst for last.
Yes. Do you want to go first or should I go first?
You go first. I want to hear what yours are because mine are really random. Like,
okay, really so random. This first one I had to think about, is it the movie that I didn't like or is it the script that I didn't like? And honestly, it's just both. Like, it's Enemy with starring Jake Gyllenhaal and directed by Denis Villeneuve. What was his last name? Villeneuve?
Yeah, I don't know how to say it either, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Last name. But I don't even know what this movie is about. Have you seen it?
No, I've never heard of this. Okay,
so basically, I think
it makes me want to scream All Too Well, though.
I know. My life. That's probably why I hate it. It's a Taylor thing.
It's just Jake Gyllenhaal. Honestly, all of Sabrina's least favorite are Jake Gyllenhaal movies.
No, it's like really hard to hate him. Actually, like I actually really like him as an actor, and it makes me really mad. But So this movie basically follows a professor, an English professor, and I forget what the other guy is, but he's like more of a villainous type of guy. But they both look exactly alike. Like they're both played by Jake Gyllenhaal. And it kind of follows I really don't even know what this movie is about, honestly, if I'm going to be honest. But they kind of get in like this tussle, like they don't like each other. One like steals one wife from the other. It's a crazy movie. I didn't understand it at all. I had to watch an explanation video after it, and I still didn't understand it. And I think the screenplay was just kind of all over the place, to the point where I wanted to turn it off, like in the half part of it, but I just kept watching it. I didn't like it, so yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, both at the same time. I'll say I hate that I feel the need to finish books or finish movies or finish watching a show that I like don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I just am that person, and I would never, like, I threatened after Eternals. I was like, if they make an Eternals 2, I don't know if I'll go see it. I know I'll go see it. But like I'm still not gonna like it. Like I feel like there's just with movies like this, you watch it and you're like, I'm already 45 minutes in, I might as well finish it, even though it's like you could have another 45 minutes to do something else. But I've literally never heard of this, which definitely speaks to like it not being that great.
I think it's a toss-up too. Like you either really love this movie or really hate this movie. It was the same for me with Taxi Driver. Like I know a lot of people love that movie and I absolutely hate it. I just like I don't know what it's about. Like I probably should have what's it called? Read the log line or something before watching it, but
there's not. This is on IMDb, so this is not like a long one. A man seeks out his exact lookalike after spotting him in a movie. Like that's literally the description of the movie. So like that sounds good enough.
But that's like basically the plot. Like nothing else happens except like a bunch of like infidelity and cheating. I don't know.
Lovely. We love that in a movie.
I know. I mean, it's fine. It's a movie, but like I just didn't understand it at all.
Yeah, it's okay. Ben is here. Ben says, hope you guys are doing well. Gotta agree with Enemy. That shit was trippy. His pick is Scream is such a clever one. I've literally been obsessing over Scream for the past 4 days. I can't believe I didn't bring that up, but that's definitely such a well-written, and like I don't even like scary movies, and it's so well-written. But the fact that he's saying that the Enemy is trippy, I don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah. It meant like, something. I just don't know what it meant, like what it was.
Here's the thing that I don't like about film, and I think this speaks to your point about Taxi Driver, and honestly, I forgot to tell you this. I heard someone in one of my classes say the same thing about not liking Taxi Driver. Yeah. So you're not alone. And I feel like it's when you have a movie that's like attached to a director. And like in this case, it's Denis Villeneuve, or however you say his last name, who's like pretty well-renowned director. It's like people can't separate the legacy of the director or like the rest of their body of work with like an individual movie. Like I think it's okay to be like, oh yeah, I like Denis Villeneuve movies except The Enemy sucks, or whatever. Or same with Taxi Driver.
Like I absolutely adore it. Like what's it called? Arrival with Amy Adams. Like I love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. But this one, I'm just like, okay.
It's definitely. What's interesting is they say that this is based on a novel. And and so I wonder if like the novel, like you know how there's books sometimes that like the adaptation is too straight of an adaptation that like some of the subtext is lost.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's like part of what this movie is. Again, I haven't seen it, so like I can't vouch for it, but I probably won't watch it now.
I mean, you might
since you didn't like
it.
I don't know. It doesn't like I'm not interested enough, I guess, to watch it, but
I think I honestly watched it just because it was like on Netflix or something. I was like, oh, let's just watch a movie, and I was like, I wish I never saw that.
That's so like, oh my gosh, I do that with movies sometimes too. Like I'm trying to think. This feels like a dramatic version of. There's a show. Obviously, it's different, but there's a show on Netflix called Living with Yourself with Paul Rudd. Who instantly I like Paul Rudd more than Jake Gyllenhaal, but
for obvious reasons.
He like clones himself and then has to fight with his clone over like who's gonna get to like stay with their wife because like they're both the same person, and like there's all of these like issues with that, and so it feels sort of like it's the same thing but in a more comedic sense. And I feel like sometimes when I see movies and they're like very similar to something else I watched, I'm like, I'm not gonna watch this. You know, it's like,
pass on that one.
which I feel bad about because I'm sure there's a lot of hard work put into this movie, but like,
No, yeah. I mean, the actual cinematography of the movie was beautiful. Like, obviously, it's Denis Villeneuve, so it's gonna be gorgeous. But like,
yeah,
whoever wrote it, I'm sorry, but
not it. Not it, apparently. That's hysterical. Okay, well, so mine is, I think, a more known least favorite, and if Jack's still here, I'm gonna get hate from him about it because I rat on this movie so much. It's not even funny. But again, like you said, I was like, is it really the movie or is it the script? And honestly, for this one, it really is the script because there's issues in the script that I think if they fixed, I would enjoy the overall movie better. But it's Aquaman, and
yeah.
I do not like this movie because my thing is, right? If I was Merman Dude and I had all the powers, because like at the start of the movie, he already has all his powers.
Mm-hmm.
He's been trained. So he's got what he needed from the underworld. And I find out that I believe that they killed my mother. Why would I go help them?
Yeah.
Like, why? It doesn't make sense. And then even when they're like, I don't know, because one of my assignments in one of my classes was like rewrite a scene of a movie that you can't stand and like fix the movie. And so like I rewrote the scene where the water people attack. I hate this movie so much. In the beginning, the water people attack her and like the household, and they basically like she like totally beats them in the house, like totally beats them up. But then they get outside and she's like, oh no, like I don't know if she gets taken prisoner or she like willingly goes, but I said like if they beat her and forced her to go against her will, because in the movie it just seems like she's like, oh no, I have to save my son, but then it ends up not saving him.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like her whole motivation.
She's just like, I give up.
Yeah, she's like winning, and then she's like, oh, they'll keep coming back.
Never mind.
I'll go. And then it's like then they like tell him that she's dead. And I just don't that's my issue with that movie. Like for anyone who's ever heard me talk crap about Aquaman, that is why, because the entire premise of the movie is stupid. Like I think Jason Momoa is great.
Yeah.
I think the actual like, sure, I don't like the way they animated their hair underwater. That really gives me the EBGBs. But like overall, the movie it's like fine. But then the other thing is at the end of the movie, and spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it, he finds out his mom is alive, and then he continues to fight for the people who just lied to him about killing and enslaving his mother.
Yeah, what's going on there? I don't understand.
I'm also confused because if he is like the true king of the ocean, can't he just be like, screw you guys for everything really messed up and rude you did. All the dolphins are coming with me now and we're gonna win.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, I don't know.
I hate that about like certain superhero movies where they have like this like extreme power and they literally don't do anything with it.
Yes. It's like, oh, well, I gotta wait. It's like,
yeah.
What? No.
Like if I had powers like that, like I'm sorry, things would go wrong.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Destroying the earth, like
literally somebody asked me one time in a live stream, they were like, what would your like superpower be? And like, would you be an Avenger if you could or something? And I was like, I mean, sure, I'd like to think so, but like I would end up more like evil probably. Because I'm just like not a good enough person to like with it's the Slytherin rising in me that's like would just
like
be like
Thanos, we're buddies.
Yeah, I would be like Loki's kind of hot. Like I guess
kind of like he is.
Exactly. Like that's immediately I would be like done. So like yeah, that's my problem with Aquaman, and like I think that's the thing. Like I feel like at least the Marvel movies, and I can't say this for all of them, they're not perfect by any means, but like I feel like I connect more to the reason that the characters initially either become superheroes or do the things they do, and it feels very human. Whereas like that movie's entire premise is based on rules of a world that are not explained well, that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And then like you're supposed to care about these characters when like you basically just find out you've been lied to like the whole movie like twice. And I hate that.
Yeah. Nobody likes that.
It's just not well written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So should I go to my next one?
Yes. Go for yours.
So my next one is kind of weird as well. It's Xanadu, starring Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly.
I've definitely heard of this before.
I heard about it and then I saw it and I was like, I wish I never heard about it. The movie's basically about a goddess who comes down to Earth and she falls in love with this human, like this young man who's friends with Gene Kelly, and they all open up a roller skating disco.
Oh my gosh.
It makes no sense at all. Like, it feels like a fever dream, the whole entire thing.
I was gonna say someone was taking something that was not necessarily legal in the 70s or 80s to write this.
For sure. Like, it didn't make any sense. I don't even really, it just felt like a fever dream to me. The script was all over the place. I didn't understand the purpose behind the movie either. Like, it wasn't funny, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't like all the things that a movie should be. It just wasn't any of those things, and I absolutely hated it, sadly, because I really love Gene Kelly and Olivia Newton-John, but this one didn't cut it.
Not in that. I feel like that's such a important part of a movie, is like, if you're doing something weird with a movie, if it's in a genre, it can be like, okay, they're changing it up or they're doing something. But like when it is genreless, because there was something else that was like the most recent movie I saw like that, which it sounds nothing like this. I'm not trying to compare the two, but like The Tender Bar, which was a movie that came out on Amazon. It's just like, it doesn't have a genre, and so I'm sort of like, it's just like, but like, it definitely sounds a little bit more well written than this. Like, this just really does sound like a bad trip or something.
Like a goddess opening up a roller skating disco. It just, those two things don't go. And it, like, maybe if it was like a comedy, like they were making fun of it or something, but it just literally wasn't even funny or dramatic. And
it's just like a little too serious, but like not serious enough for you to be like, oh, it's weird.
Yeah, it's not good. That's all I have to say.
There you go, people. If you're interested in watching something that is a fever dream, Xanadu sounds like that's it.
There you go.
That's such an interesting. Oh my. Sometimes you look at movies and you're like, really? Like, this got made?
I don't know why that got made. I don't know why.
A different time. It was a different time. But
even for that time though, because there's like really good movies that came out. I think it was
no, you're right.
And I'm just like, did people actually pay to go see this in the movie theater? Because I'd be really disappointed if I paid and then went to see that and I was like,
yeah, I would too. I would be like, not sure about that one, Chief. Not sure.
I'm sure there's people who like it though, so I'm sorry to those people.
Yeah, sorry to those people, but that's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, mine, and this is one. These next two are ones that like I actually kind of enjoyed the movie for what it was, but like the script is like not it. And for me, the next one is A Christmas Prince on Netflix.
Wait, is that the one with Vanessa Hudgens, or is that
that's it's in the same like Netflix Christmas universe, but it's not the one with Vanessa Hudgens. It's the one with the blonde girl.
Oh yeah,
and they have a trilogy. And this is not. I watched all three of them this Christmas, and I literally have a whole script for a video that I just never got around to filming. So next year, people stay tuned because it will come to you eventually. But the first movie, especially compared to the second and the third, like there is, for a romance movie, like that's the one thing, is it's not a rom-com, it's not a romance drama, it's just like a romance movie set at Christmas.
Yeah.
The main character, she's written differently in if she's alone, if she's with the prince has a sister who is I think she has,
isn't it polio or something?
Or like spina bifida. No, not spina bifida, or like cerebral palsy. She has some type of disability to where she's in a wheelchair. So she acts different when she's herself. She acts different when she's with the sister, and she acts completely different when she's with the prince. And the problem I have with this movie, even though I love a good romance, like sweep me up in a romance 100%, but there is no progression of their romance. It's literally just like her watching him from afar, and then all of a sudden they're together, and like you just know they're gonna end up together, so it's kind of okay. But if you know that's gonna happen, I want some tension in the middle. I want some, I don't know, it's written really poorly in that sense. And then there's also parts, and later in the series I do think the writing gets better, and it works itself eventually. They get good. You just get sucked in, and you're just all of a sudden like, I'm on the third one and I love it and I want to move to Aldovia and all whatever. But in the first one, there is this like, there's these weird rules that the kingdom has, because like it's a kingdom that's not even like England, where there's royal. Yeah, it's like it's this random mysterious country, but they have these rules that like, I don't want to spoil. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, yeah.
Okay, so like there's this weird rule that like it has to be his biological son, not a biological daughter, or not an adopted son. And they basically find out that like the prince is adopted, and
Oh,
so
yeah,
he
yeah,
can't
yeah.
become king. And so
Yeah.
in the end, they changed the law to where the adopted son. But I'm like, he had a daughter the whole time. Like, if the issue was biology and not adoption,
Yeah.
which is, I was like, why not just, if you're gonna change the law anyways, like if you're just naming your new king and he dies, like shouldn't we be concerned that like maybe the daughter could rule too?
Yeah.
Because like she's way smarter
Or if
than
you're gonna
any of
change it that easily in the end, like just change it easily in the beginning, and you wouldn't have to go through all of that problem.
exactly. And like I think the main thing is even like I can excuse that and be like, okay, whatever, that's just a dumb thing that they was very narrow-minded. They were like, okay, we're gonna just change this rule and that's gonna be the twist. Because the twist of like an adopted son is good, but like he has a biological daughter, so it's like we could have fixed the sexism along with the biology versus adoption argument, but okay, we'll just leave that until the third movie when it becomes convenient, whatever.
The next movie should be like women's rights.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's where the series eventually gets to, and it gets kind of interesting. But like, I'm like, we could have solved this in the first movie, you know? But it's just the romance itself is not. It's like nothing, 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 and then all of a sudden they're in love, and you're like, I don't feel it though.
Yeah, it's not what happens in real life.
Sadly. I feel like even the two actors, I don't want to say they have like a ton of chemistry, but you definitely like believe that they're like together and they're in a romance, and especially in the second two. But like the writing of the two of them is just like, these are not two people who are in love, you know? And it's just sort of, so that had to make my list when I was really thinking about it. I was like, I like the movie, but
I don't even like remembering it. I don't even think they really had that great of a chemistry either. Like the two characters. And I know that this movie is not supposed to be like a serious thing. Like it's supposed to be just like those, you know, stupid rom-com Hallmark movies or whatever.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like give us some chemistry. Give us something at least.
The thing is, it's like that's all you had to do.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you didn't do it, you kind of fail like entirely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I can excuse the fact that the rest of the story doesn't make that much sense when you're at least giving me a romance that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
But when you don't do that, I'm just like not about it.
No. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down for sure. Sabrina, what is your next least favorite movie?
Okay, so this is my last least favorite, but it's Twilight. And I know everyone's gonna hate me for saying that, because like here's the thing, it's kind of duplicitous for me. Like I love Twilight, but I also hate Twilight. And I think it's because like one of the reasons I feel like this movie's so popular is because of how bad the script is and how bad the dialogue is. But at the same time, I just like watching it. I'm like, who wrote this? Like, how did they get this past whoever they needed to get it past? Because I'd like to know so I can get my movie made.
Seriously, like you look at some of these movies, and I will admit this is a major shortcoming of mine. I still have not seen like any of the Twilight movies. I've seen the first 20 minutes of the first one.
Okay.
And like I understand the fact, I've heard that there's been a lot of debate over like whether Bella is a Mary Sue character or if Kristen Stewart is playing her exactly the way she's portrayed in the books, or like what the deal is. But some of the just lines, not even just dialogue, but like the actual just like interactions that they have, I'm like, what?
Like I don't know if I'm still confused if they did that on purpose because they knew it was gonna get like criticism, like a lot of criticism, and therefore make it more popular, or if they just didn't know how to write and it just suddenly became popular. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I feel like that is actually like a really interesting was it intentionally bad or not? Because then I feel like the thing is, what's wild is like Twilight, it was just such a big success that then like I feel like the other movies are not as bad. Is that an accurate impression?
I think they do get a little bit better, but they're still kind of cringy.
Okay.
To be honest.
I feel like it's just so, I don't know. I feel like there's something about Twilight, and I love supernatural type stuff like that. I love that there's the love triangle and the romance, but there's part of me that's like, it just feels stale.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's the magic or the romance is like a little amiss for me.
Like I feel like they were almost making fun of the book, but at the same time, I'm still not sure. Like,
I feel like, you know what? I feel like it probably was. I feel like it was a bunch of since like the book is like for teen girls or like women. I feel like a bunch of guys were like, this is popular, let's make it a movie, and they wrote it not really like intending, like not really caring if it was good or not, because they just knew it would make money, and then being like, well, that was all we had to do, we'll just make another one. Which, apologies if someone, I don't know, let's see, I'm gonna look up who wrote it, but
I'd respect that more, honestly.
I get, you know what, I respect the hustle, I guess you have to.
But it's so weird because I do love Twilight just because it's so bad, but that's my case.
Okay, I can't even say it. Oh, Melissa Rosenberg wrote it.
Melissa, I've never heard of her.
She also wrote Twilight Breaking Dawn. She worked on Jessica Jones, The OC. So maybe this was just unfortunately a bad foray for Miss Melissa here.
Yeah.
With Twilight.
They were like, oh, the first one was so bad everyone liked it. Let's make all the other ones bad too.
Let's just continue this. Yeah. Minimal effort. Yeah.
Make lots of money by doing
exactly. Why not? Why, you know what? If you can keep it easy and simple, I guess that's the way to do it.
I mean,
but I think about that too. Like whenever I watch any of the Netflix movies or see something like Twilight, and I'm like, that's a big piece of intellectual property. Like that's a big franchise that they were just like, we'll just won't really put that much effort into. I'm like, hi, I would like to do that for a living.
Yeah, exactly. That's
because I know I could do it even like 5% better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
I don't know.
It's just, I seriously still need to watch them because I feel like I can't be like a girl who was a teenager at the time Twilight was coming out and not have seen them. Yeah. It's a very big blind spot for me.
I only watched them recently because I wasn't allowed to watch them growing up. So now I'm just like, yeah, I'm an adult. I can watch Twilight.
I'm an adult. I can handle this.
It's literally not even that good. So.
You're like, oh, what were they?
Not letting me watch it when I was younger.
That's so funny because I remember, like, I have a very vivid memory of like 7th grade history class was like our first period, and these girls came in and they were like, oh, I'm so tired. I went to the midnight premiere of Breaking Dawn Part 1 because they had like older sisters, and so like the older sister took them instead of the mom, and the mom didn't care. And I just remember all of them kind of like bragging, like that was the big, like the popular girls, that was their flex of like, and I was like, that's stupid. I just don't.
I'm like, different.
No, me being the pick me girl, being like, no, actually, the only premiere I would go to would be Harry Potter, not Twilight.
Cool like that.
Yeah, so that's just honestly embarrassing for me as much as it was for them at the time. But I'm sorry it did not live up to your expectations. It probably won't live up to mine. There's people in my life who are like, you have to watch them, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to eventually.
It's become a comedy to me. Like I watch it and I'm like hysterically laughing through the whole thing, and like the really serious parts.
That was the problem. I started freshman year of high school watching it with a friend of mine, and I was just ripping it apart, like making fun of it. And she was like, I'm turning this off. You're not watching this. Like you literally, like, I'm not watching this with you. And I was like, I struck a nerve. I was like, I'm sorry.
Dang. People are like, it's like a religion. Like
it really is. And like I do feel for people who read the books, because I feel from what I have heard, again, cannot vouch for it, but like people have said that the books are really good, really interesting. There's a lot more world building and like intrigue of the vampires and the family and their powers and stuff. And then the movie just kind of is like bad. Yeah. So I do feel for those people who feel attached to it, because it's like, this is all I have, so I'm gonna love it with all I have, you know? Because that's literally would be me.
Yeah.
You know? But it's like, I don't know. It's I don't know.
Twilight.
It's Twilight. There you go. There's a phrase.
Yeah.
Okay. My last least favorite movie. This one isn't like, I don't even think this one is egregious as the other two. It was just one that I was like, that is one that I think it has decent actors. It's like a good premise, but the film, not even the film, because the film was like for the time, for like it's called First Daughter is what it's called. It's a
I think I've seen that.
You have? Okay. It's Katie Holmes plays the president's daughter, and she's like going to college, and Michael Keaton is the president, of course. Like, why would he not be? Yeah, and so I loved that, but it was like, we have these like good actors and this premise that's actually really interesting, and scenes in the movie that are like really good, because it's sort of like she wants to be politically involved, but she like also doesn't want to be, because it's like she's the president's daughter and she's taking a stance, and some of her stances are like different than her dad's, which I think has like a really interesting commentary on like family and politics and just the way that like letting someone grow up and become their own person does. but some of the other parts of the movie kind of stray away from that because it ends up being a little bit more of a romance movie, but it's not the most funny movie in the world. Like, she sort of just goes, for anyone that hasn't seen it, she just sort of goes off the rails and starts to like party because she falls in love with this guy, and then it turns out he's a Secret Service agent. And like, it's, which is also sort of like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, why couldn't she just date him? He's the president. Like, I don't know, but it's sort of like he can't get involved because then he'll be impartial, which I'm like, you're supposed to protect her anyways, so why couldn't you date her? Anyways, it's just some of the elements of the movie just end up being I'm trying to find a way to apply the phrase like the sum of its parts to this thing. I feel like the movie itself is fine, but the parts of the movie, like the script is like very poor.
Yeah.
Very poor.
Yeah. That's just the worst. Like, I don't want to see a movie that's just like, eh.
Exactly. Like, I loved, especially when we talked about such great, like, chick flicks, like Bridesmaids and Legally Blonde. It's like, if there's something to say here, you can put it in the movie. Like, it doesn't have to be, in the end, she just ends up, like, running away. So, not running away, like, she's not, like, gone forever, she's president's daughter. But, like, he gets her, like, a getaway car to, like, go meet up with a Secret Service agent and, like, go off to college, which I'm like, she's already at college. And like the joke is like he gives her beer and it's like, oh my god, like the president's giving his daughter a bottle of beer or something. But it's like, it was just sort of like unsatisfactory, like you said. And it's like, I want to walk away from a movie like that and be like, oh my gosh, like I thought I was getting this dumb romance movie, but it was like actually really smart and interesting. And this is just like the weaker version of like those other amazing chick flicks that we talked about.
I feel like I saw that like so long ago. I don't even really remember what happened. So like you telling me that, I was just like, what?
It's so old. And the other thing that's weird, and I want to double check this before I sound dumb saying it, but I think it's directed by hold on, sorry, I dropped something. It's directed by Forrest Whitaker, who is the one thing I know him from. He's an actor, and he in Black Panther, he's Zuri. He's like the one that like puts him in the sand. He's literally been in so many other things. He's in Lee Daniels' The Butler, The Last King of Scotland. Like, he's a pretty well-known actor. But he is the last person I think would direct this movie about this like little girl go. Yeah, and it's weird. Which like I know we're talking about screenplays, so I don't know who the screenplay is by. Is by Jessica Bendinger, Jerry O'Connell, and Kate Condell. So and that's another thing. I wanted to ask her a question about this. I feel like sometimes scripts can be really bad when there's multiple writers.
Yes, I feel like that too. Because like before when I was talking about how I like movies where the writer is the director or the director is the writer because they have such an insight into that story, and I feel like that can kind of get lost when there's so many different writers. Just like if you have so many different characters, it's the same with the writers, the writer room. So I agree with that. Like, I think sometimes the movie comes out a little bit worse, especially if it's like 3 writers and over.
Yeah, and I mean, I did not know this before. Like, I had not looked up who wrote this, but if you watch the movie, for anyone potentially interested, there are scenes with her and her dad that feel very dramatic, like very good scenes. And then there's certain scenes of her with her friends at college, and I feel like it was like somebody's writing the scenes with her and Michael Keaton. Somebody's writing the scenes with her in her normal life, and then someone's writing the romance scenes. And like you said, I've never thought about it that way, but like if you have a creative vision for who this character is, you can convey that when it's just one person writing the script, and then potentially if it's the same person directing it. But like if you have 3 different people on one movie writing it for an hour and 20-minute movie or whatever this movie is, an hour and 46, like that's not enough time. And I feel like with shows, you can get away with multiple writers because it's usually 1 writer per episode, or 2, and then you have like a show bible where it's like, this is the character, you cannot deviate from this. Whereas in a movie, like those shifts, just you feel them so much more. They're so much more jarring.
And I feel too like it's the same with directors, but also for screenwriters. Like every screenwriter has a kind of thumbprint. Like you can tell what an Aaron Sorkin movie is, or you can tell what a Greta Gerwig movie is. And so when there's 3 different writers or like more than that, you can tell who wrote each scene, and it kind of takes away from the movie, like from being interested in the movie.
That's such a good analogy. Like that makes so much sense. Like just thinking back on this movie, it's like it's not horrible movie, but the script itself, you feel those thumbprints. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Let me see. Did you have any more least favorite, or should we just get to the? Okay,
yeah,
let's.
that was the end of mine.
That was the end of mine too. So let's see. Okay. Francis says Pulp Fiction best script period. Most bad scripts are lightly trapped under the confines of bad execution, so it's hard for me to find a bad script. So Francis, I personally disagree with the statement because I feel like a script is your foundation for the movie. Like that's the thing that you read. That is I've heard people describe it as like the blueprint for making the movie. Like you have to have all of these things written out, and if you're writing in proper screenplay format, there's certain things you have to capitalize so that you know how to adjust it. And when a producer actually gets like a script and will highlight it for certain things, like you're doing this right now for your own stuff, Sabrina, but like you have to highlight the props that you need and all that kind of stuff. And so like that all needs to be there. And like Pulp Fiction is a great example of a good one because Tarantino wrote it and then he directed it. And that's someone I could never see Tarantino writing a movie that someone else directed or directing a movie that someone else wrote because I just feel like it wouldn't work. But I feel like when you have a bad script, like a director can only do so much with what they're given. Like kind of like we were saying, like Denis Villeneuve can make this beautiful movie, very visually stunning. But if the story doesn't make sense, and I am definitely a person, which like some people are very different than this, but like I go see a movie and sure the visuals are great, but like I'm there for the story.
Right.
The characters.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with that. 100%.
Alex suggests the Suicide Squad. Did you ever see the original Suicide Squad?
I didn't. I haven't seen the
Probably best.
Yeah.
It was, I remember at the time I went to go see it and I didn't think of it as being as bad as people now remember it as being since the Suicide Squad has come out. But I feel like that is one that if it had multiple writers, which I'm still not sure if it does, it's like different characters just tonally don't work together. And it's like, it doesn't feel like it's written by the same person. So if it was written by one person, I feel bad because they didn't do a good job. But sorry, moving on.
No, I need to watch the Suicide Squad in general because I haven't seen like any of them. So yeah, I gotta write that on my list.
The new one is better, but they're just very different. Like they're very, very. I think the 2016 one is a little bit more self-serious, but the new one is actually more serious. It's just more ostensibly comedic. If that makes any sense. Yeah. Alex didn't like Cats. I never saw Cats.
I was gonna go see it because Taylor Swift was in it, and then I heard like all of like the bad reviews about it, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, Taylor. I'll just watch your streams. I don't think I'm."
I'll support you in other ways, girl. But I don't. I feel like she is one of the people who escaped like the scathing hate for that movie so well. Which like obviously she's Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
But like I feel like what scares me about that movie, and I hate that James Corden got a lot of the hate for it because apparently that's why I was like, why do people hate James Corden all of a sudden? And apparently it's because of that, and then the Cinderella movie, which I never watched.
Was that the new one with Camila Cabello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That movie, oh my gosh. Wait, I should have actually put that on my worst.
Wait, really?
When I originally saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And like, it was mainly because like that ending scene was really nice. And like, there were just certain parts about it that I really, really enjoyed. But then I was like looking back on it and I was like, well, Camila Cabello was not the best choice for Cinderella. Like the way that she sang some of the songs, I was like, who let her do this? Like, I felt so bad for her. But yeah.
With both of those movies, I'm just like shocked that certain, like Helen Mirren is in Cats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, excuse me? Like who let Helen Mirren be CGI'd into human cat form? Who let that happen? They should be fired.
Yeah. The movie's just kind of cringy too, because like the way they CGI'd them onto cats, it just looks really weird. Like it should just stay on Broadway. That's
what I'm saying. That is the thing that's like certain movies don't work on stage because it's like the movie says everything it needs to say. I don't know what more musical could add, but like musical theater, and I'm a fan of musical theater.
Same.
You can do a lot of things in musical theater that you cannot do for a mainstream audience. And the other thing is too, with some of these movies, and I thought this about The Lion King for the recent like 3D animated version. I'm like, this is not acceptable for children to watch. Like The Lion King was scary because they look like real lions. So when they're attacking each other, it looks like National Geographic.
Yeah.
And then with cats, it's like these cats should not have like human body curves and like that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I just feel bad. No, me too. Me too. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to see that. That's not. Jack asks, have you guys read the script for The Quiet Place? Very unique, but breaks all the screenplay rules. I have read like a couple sections of it.
I haven't read it, but I love the movie. I probably love it.
I don't know if you can find like the original script online, but apparently and this is something where it's like you can get away with this stuff when you know you're going to direct the movie, but like apparently John Krasinski put in like photos into the script, which is like so unheard of.
Yeah.
But then also so much of it, because it's A Quiet Place, like I think it's only something like 46 pages because they didn't actually write in much of the dialogue, or there's like not that much dialogue, so it's just so much more condensed. So it's definitely an interesting one. I feel like it's not necessarily one like Legally Blonde that you could teach in class, because it's like this really would only work if you were John Krasinski directing your own movie.
Right.
But
to be John Krasinski.
That's the dream, isn't it? The dream.
That's so like opposite from like Little Women, because I feel like Little Women is longer because of all of the dialogue and how fast they talk, and then it's like so tiny.
I know.
The movie's so much longer, so that's.
Yeah, no, it's so like that's always so interesting to me. Like the page per minute rule for most stuff it applies, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff more so now that it's like, not necessarily.
Yeah.
MK says, I've been listening and I feel like an honorable mention is Mother or Android. I thought it was good. I saw it get a lot of hate. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I don't think I've heard of this.
I have not seen that.
Mother Android. You Google it.
Oh, it's 2021.
Yeah, that's surprising. Chloe Grace Moretz says, in a post-apocalyptic world rocked by a violent android uprising, a young pregnant woman and her boyfriend desperately search for safety. Huh. That definitely is like an interesting premise.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes there are movies like this though that are so well written, but because they don't, for whatever reason, like hit the mainstream, the script's just sort of lost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I didn't even hear about this movie at all.
So the fact that it was a Hulu movie and it came out at the end of last year and like nothing.
Yeah.
That's very surprising. Ooh, good question. What is your opinion on the best screenplay of 2021? Alex's is Licorice Pizza and Belfast. What do you think, Sabrina? What would you say?
Oh, goodness graciousness. This question is so hard. I'm trying to think of like all the movies that I've seen last year.
I know, I need to pull up my letterbox.
Let's see.
I feel like initially my gut reaction is Being the Ricardos, but that was a personal, like I just liked the way that Aaron Sorkin wrote it and was able to really draw out some of the elements of this marriage in a way that like when you think of I Love Lucy, you think you know everything, but it's like, no, there was so much beneath the surface that like Americans at the time like had no idea. But one of the ones that I watched recently, which I don't know if you saw this, Sabrina, but it's called The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I have not seen it.
It has Jessica Chastain and it has Andrew Garfield in it, and they play this televangelist couple who is like a real life couple, so it's based on a true story, and basically they do really well like building all of this wealth and money and like feeding it back into the Christian church, and the film follows like them meeting to like the end of the story, and it's I don't know if it's necessarily the script that's great, but I think it has a lot of subtext to it, and that's what makes me think it's the script. So I'm like, maybe it's something else, but like it is such, we were talking earlier about like unlikable main characters, or like people who seem, they're like good, they're normal people, but they did a horrible thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like the way that like the scandals are portrayed in this movie for those two people, you like feel everything so deeply, and I was just like amazed when I finished it. I highly recommend it. What's so it called good again? The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I have to write it down.
It's a good one. It's on no, I don't think it's on Amazon.
Because I feel like I remember watching the trailer for this and then completely forgot about it.
I definitely did the same thing. I was like, I had wanted to see it because of Andrew Garfield. And I think it's definitely like I know I haven't seen Spencer yet, and I know a lot of people are talking about
I haven't
Kristen
either.
Stewart for like Best Actress, but Jessica Chastain in Eyes of Tammy Faye is incredible. Like she's
amazing.
so good.
Yeah,
she
I love
is.
her. Yeah.
She's amazing. I absolutely love her. But did you have a best one, or can you not decide?
Honestly, I think it would probably be being the Ricardos. I really love Aaron Sorkin in general, and I think the way that he wrote Lucy, like the character of Lucy in this movie, was amazing, because usually we see Lucy as like, oh, this happy-go-lucky, like comedy, charming person, but in reality, she was very like a boss babe. Like she didn't let people like step all over her and everything. And I think that just the way he wrote it was amazing. So I have to agree with that and say being the Ricardos, not being with the Ricardos.
It's so movie. Good. If anyone hasn't seen it, Sabrina and I both highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Taylor Swift was only there for 10 minutes. Okay, so that's Taylor knew. She got to set. Yeah. They put her in her green suit, and she was like, cut me down to 10 minutes.
She went through this like whole school of like how to be a cat, and like it was like freaking out about it, and she's only in it for like 10 minutes.
Poor thing.
She went through the whole thing. So cute.
No, Alex is right. It was not Helen Mirren. It was Dame Judi Dench. The woman is a dame, and they put her in a cat suit. Like that's just who said that was okay. Also, goodbye, Alex. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Bye.
Let me see if I missed any other ones. Ben was suggesting that Chris Stuckman has a video on Enemy for more explanation, and explained it to him, but he still says that the movie is an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience for sure.
Yeah. Ricardo said he feels the need to finish movies once he starts them. The only movie you've taken the decision... Into the Spider-Verse! I love Into the Spider-Verse. I'm surprised, Ricardo.
What?
I really, really love Into the Spider-Verse. I'm really excited for the second one. That one is a well-written movie, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Oh, someone else loves... Jack loves the Steve Jobs movie. Thank you, Jack. Me and you, buddy. Me and you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you have any other faves or least faves of screenwriting tropes you like, or last tips that you want to leave the people with tonight, Sabrina?
I was thinking earlier when we were talking, I do have one more movie that I thought of that's one of my favorite. And it's A Few Good Men, written by Aaron Sorkin.
I have not seen it, but the fact that it's Aaron Sorkin, I know I'll love it.
It's really good. And like you said, it was adapted because it was a play. So coming onto the screen, it still has that kind of play-like feel, even though he like still writes very play-like. And I really love it. It's very emotional and very dramatic, but like I think he did a really good job again of like getting inside the characters' heads and like really portraying that in the script. So yeah, it's a really good one. You should watch it.
That's one of those that like I have several. I made like a list of like have to watch movies, and I always somehow just find myself like completely ignoring it. Like Frances Ha has been on there.
Yeah.
A Few Good Men has been on there. Both Godfather movies, which I've seen clips of, but like never sat down and like watched. And I'm just like, I have to get to these eventually, but I just feel that way with movies. Like I just skip around, and the ones that are like the best, I'm like, well, they'll still be the best. So like I'll watch this random Netflix Christmas movie.
Well, because sometimes you're like in the mood to watch like a comedy, or like you don't necessarily want to watch The Godfather. So
or then you want to watch it really bad, and it's like not on streaming, so you're like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna pay for it.
That'll be on Netflix one day, and then I'll go in the next day, and it's gone. And I'm like, why'd you do that to me?
That is the one thing that I know you don't have HBO Max, but I love about HBO Max is they have like a leaving soon category. Hulu does it too, but like they will tell you when something's leaving, so you can like it'll remind you to watch it, which is kind of nice, so you like won't miss it. But Netflix
needs to do that too.
They do. I'm like, come on, catch up, Netflix. You guys are kind of lagging. MK says she didn't like After Earth. This is the one I believe with Will Smith. Is that the one with him and Jaden?
Oh, yeah.
I never watched this.
Yeah, I never watched this. I feel like I vaguely heard about it, and then I just did not watch it.
Yeah,
I also didn't watch that other one that he came out with. I forget what it's called, but like it's about him traveling back into the past or something and having to kill himself.
I
I
know
didn't
exactly what you're talking about. I did not watch
watch the
that
name of
either.
it. Yeah.
I can't remember. It's like there. I know it's up there, the name of it, but I can't think of what it was. I feel like there's so many movies that, like, we obviously talked about like our least favorites, but I feel like there are so many movies that just end up being so unmemorable. And honestly, like, as much as there's movies that I'm like, no, I don't like this movie, I would rather talk about a movie I don't like viscerally dislike, than just a boring one.
Right. Yeah.
Like, even if it's just good, Gemini Man. Thank you, MK. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Gemini Man.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's so many movies that are just either outright forgettable or just bleh, and you're just like, well,
I either want to love it or hate it. Like,
yeah, I'm definitely like one of the extremes. Like, I much prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay, well, before we go, because I have not eaten dinner. I had my snack, but
I still have my Chick-fil-A here.
So we have to eventually eat. Sabrina, what a piece of screenwriting advice, either that you've received or that you can give the people, would you say is something that, like, I'm gonna guess totally out of left field, I know. I'm gonna guess it's something that Greta does, but what is something that you can suggest?
So I'm sure it's something that she does, but I haven't heard her say it before. And it's really cliche. Everyone says it, but it's to write what you know. And like, yes. I really love that, because even if the movie's not necessarily about like a human or like something in our realm or something that you've never experienced, a lot of like relationships and a lot of like the characters in movies come from people that we know around us, or experiences that we've experienced. And so, like I was saying before, with having a screenwriter having a thumbprint on everything, each screenwriter is going to have their own thumbprint and their own experience and their own uniqueness, and that's really going to show through the screenplay. So just write what you know, who you are, and it'll work out great.
That's such a good piece of advice, and I totally agree with you. Like, it can't be stated enough, because I do feel like you hear stories of, there's a show on, you hear like success stories of people being like, I was doing all of these things to be successful, and then I just wrote something that I didn't think would go anywhere, and it did. Like, there is this show, highly recommended to anyone interested. It's called Working Moms. It's a Canadian show, but it's on Netflix. Netflix has like the US streaming rights to it. And it's basically just this mom was going back to work. And she was writing, like, she was a screenwriter. She was writing things. Nothing was really getting picked up. And then she just wrote these scenes basically like about her life, about having a kid and struggling to go back to work, because like, you want to be home with your baby, but you also don't want to give up your career. And it spawned this show that now is like super popular over in Canada, but also has like a decent following on Netflix. They're definitely, I think they're on the 4th or 5th season, and it's like very founded in like female friendship. So highly recommended to anyone interested. But she just said, like, yeah, I just realized I wasn't writing what I knew, and if I just wrote about my own experiences, like, that would resonate with people.
Yeah, because sometimes we see all of these different movies and we're like, oh, I want to be like that, and I want to be like that, and I want to be like that. But in reality, you're only going to bring to the table who you are, and that's what makes the industry so amazing and so unique. Like, every movie is different because everyone is so different.
Exactly. So. No, 100%. My piece of advice that I'll leave, I guess, I'm trying to think if this is the one. This is much less profound, but one of my screenwriting professors told me that it's best if you never have a chunk more than 4 lines long, which I looked at like a script I had written probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was like the chunkiest thing ever. And his advice was like, not only keep it to like 4 lines, usually with like an description, like scene description or action. Dialogue could be a little bit longer if someone was like on a monologue or something, but to keep it that way and keep as much black lettering off the page as possible, because that makes it easier to read. And then a reader who's like looking at your script, whether it's a professor or a friend or literally like an agent or someone that's going to help you get it published, that like, that helps them to read it and is more interested in reading it. and they'll at least get further in the story, which might help you out, which was something that it was like, that's like a very simple piece of advice, but it is like, as writers, we want to be very like flowery and use the big words and all this kind of stuff, but it's like, if you can say the same thing in less and make it less on the page, it's gonna go better.
That's a really
for the person.
That's a really good piece of advice. Let me like edit my script.
Write it down. It's like, and it is like, I had an internship last semester where I read scripts on like a daily, not a daily basis, but like I read a couple a week, and it was like, if there was too much on the page, I'd just be like, ugh. Whereas like we think about books, and it's like, oh, I don't have a problem reading that in a book, but like screenplay is its own unique thing, and like you have to feed into that. So that was something that like now I can't get out of my head. If I'm like writing, I'm like, oh, that's 4 lines. Like he said, because he was saying like, even just hit enter and do another 4 lines.
Yeah.
But like, just don't have 8 together, you know?
That makes sense. I'm going to keep that with me forever. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. This is the best part about having friends that love the same stuff. Yes. You could just trade advice and stories and stuff.
For sure.
And then we will end this on your lovely mom's comment. I was disappointed with Netflix's Don't Look Up. I think they could have done a better job portraying the end of the world. Leo DiCaprio's role was as always magnificent, but the movie not too good. I have still not seen this.
Okay.
Have you?
I saw it, obviously with my mom.
I love that mother-daughter movie date. Yeah. So cute.
And I actually really did enjoy it. I really, going into it, I didn't realize how much they were going to kind of make this movie into like, oh, this is portrayed like happening. I don't know how to talk. This is about real events, basically. Like, if a comet actually were to come at us right now, like, would we even react or anything? I didn't know it was going to be about that. So going into it and watching it, I thought that was really amazing how they portrayed that, and really smart. I think the dialogue could have been a little bit better, honestly, but I liked it overall. So
I need to watch it because I know Adam McKay, the director, he did like The Big Short and he did Vice, which are I know he's done other movies, but those are like the 2 that I've seen. And I think what's interesting about like what you're saying is those are both based on like real life events. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of like this half comedic, half satire, like, hey, you need to actually really be serious about this. Like, I'm saying it's funny, but like actually pay attention to what's going on. And I feel like both of those movies have that element. And so it's interesting to think about it as if like these are true events that just have not happened yet. Mm-hmm. But like, I definitely sometimes I hate to say this, but I feel like sometimes movies become more of an ensemble, and then some of the actual story gets a little lost because because that movie has Tyler Perry, Meryl Streep, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Timothy Chalamet, Jonah Hill, and like all of these other people that I'm just like, how do you have? I don't know. Like, I don't know how you write that. Yeah. Expensive. Probably.
Yeah. Probably. No, yeah. I feel like too, like, going on social media after seeing it, like some people were kind of missing the point of the movie too. They were like, haha, this is so funny. And I'm like, okay, that's literally the point they were trying to make. Like, okay.
I definitely need to watch it because I like his style and the way that he's able to approach those things. But it's I've heard very mixed things about it, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, but because of your mom, I'm interested to see it now. I want to like chit chat with you guys now and be like, hey, what do we think?
You should come on the live next time.
Exactly. No, yes. Yes, please. Sabrina's mom, please come join us. Do you have time for these last 2 comments?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I've got the whole night. It's fine.
Okay. Look at you. Daniel says the Brothers Bloom, really great movie. One of the best characters, doesn't say 1 word. I have thought about this, and I think The Quiet Place has changed my perspective on this. I think sometimes it can be good for characters not to speak, but it becomes sometimes a little boring to watch.
Yeah.
At least I find.
Yeah.
Because I just like dialogue.
I do too. Like, that's one of the reasons I love Greta Gerwig and like Aaron Sorkin, because there's so much dialogue. And you can like really lose yourself in it, which is awesome. But I agree with that. It has to be done right. If like A Quiet Place, I feel like was done right. Like, he knew like specifically what the movie was going to be about and like really planned out the whole thing. So
yeah,
it depends.
No, I definitely depends. It definitely depends. Francis says his favorite script was 9 Days. Didn't really love the execution, but the screenplay and the concept art hooked me. I saw this movie. Have you seen this movie, Sabrina?
No, I have not.
This movie, after watching it, in the best way possible, I wanted to like crawl into a hole just so I could like think about it. It was a very like spiritual. The movie is about these souls who are waiting to be born, and they're basically like trying to prove like why they should be the one to go, or they pass these tests that they don't. They're just different elements, and the movie goes in a lot of different directions. It's very deep in a way that like it's very impactful, but yeah, it's I can't even say anything more about it. I don't even know what else to say about it, but I did enjoy that movie, Frances, and I recommend it, Sabrina, if you can get your hands on it. And then Frances's least favorite movies were Tom and Jerry, which I did not see. But he said it was insulting to children. I do hate when children's movies are not smart. Like, kids are smarter than that. Yeah. They deserve better.
For sure.
You know? And then Sweet Girl, which was a Jason Momoa movie, which I did not see.
I did not see that.
Well, Frances, I'm sorry you have to suffer alone there. But but yeah, Sabrina, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's such a delight talking to you all the time.
It seriously is. Please tell the people where they can follow you. Go subscribe to her channel first and foremost.
Yes.
First and foremost.
Go subscribe. Yeah, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. It's just Sabrina Johns. And then I also have an Instagram account, Twitter, TikTok, which I also link below all of my videos, so you can find me there. And yeah, I do a lot of screenwriting videos, vlogs. I'm currently going into production of my script that I've completed. So that's really exciting. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's in production, pre-production. So yes.
I love that for you. And guys, I'm spamming Sabrina's channel. Please go subscribe to her. She makes the best content. And your vlogs, first and foremost, like I've said this to you in comments, but now I'm saying it to you face to face. Pop off. Pop off. The B-roll is so good. And I'm so excited to see this movie. And
yeah, I need to get it. Like, I want to do it so bad because I've been talking about it for so long, but
I'm just excited because I know you a long time ago like redid the scene from Frances Ha. Yeah. And then you also had the one that you filmed. I think it was your brother that was the actor. Yeah. And like, it was so good. There's something just so amazing about like writing something, producing it, seeing it made.
It's literally the best feeling. And I know I'm going to get such a like dopamine rush when I do this movie, because like I'm already getting it and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And if you ever want to help on it, I'm like not that far from you. So.
I know. I'll make a drive, girl. I will make a drive to be on set. That would be so fun. Can you imagine?
That would be so fun. Like literally the best thing ever.
Guys, we'll have to scheme a little bit, but you might see something.
Yeah.
But Sabrina, seriously, thank you again so much. Please, everyone, go subscribe to her channel. She's amazing. She's just such a positive light, and I love all of your videos. And thank you. You're just such a wonderful person and a wonderful friend, and I love getting to chat with you.
So are you.
See, guys, this is love fest. It really is.
We're just gushing over each other now.
Truly we are. You're my favorite script, Sabrina.
Oh my God. That's like the loveliest thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm gonna cry.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much. All of you who watched. Have a lovely, amazing night. Sabrina, I'm sure you'll be seeing her lovely face soon. Again, go subscribe to her or on the channel again.
And subscribe to Sasha, even if you're like, probably a lot of you already subscribed, but still.
I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Sabrina, again, I've said it 5 times. Thank you. And have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.